done his MSc in Applied Geology from IIT and PG Diploma in Advanced Aerial Photo Interpretation from IIT Mumbai. Sir has 40 plus years of consultation and project management experience in the areas of rural, urban, and industrial area watersheds, groundwater management, and climate change. Identifying and developing alliances and partnerships with Central Groundwater Board, Government of India, NGOs, and at international level agencies like RUDO, USAIP, TAF, the World Bank are an area of expertise for Sir. Sir has rich international work experience at the academic institutions of the Netherlands and Germany and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Economy, West Africa and Nigeria. And Sir has work exposure across the globe, ranging from parts of Asia, South America, Europe, North America, and West Africa. Sir's expertise lies in the area of integrated water resource management, urban lake ecosystems, climate change, clean technologies, and livelihood development. He has also participated in international workshops and UN global conferences, including the Earth Summit. Sir has attended international training programs in climate change and protection, systems approach in environment management, and global reporting initiatives across the globe.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some problem with audio sometime.
Yes, sir. I would like to repeat, sir, if you permit.
No.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, all. Now we would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. B.V. Subbarao. Mr. B.V. Subbarao has done his MSc in Applied Geology from IIT Roorkee and PG Diploma in Advanced Interpretation from IIT Bombay. Sir has 40 plus years of consultation and project management, expertise in the area of rural, urban, and industrial area watersheds, groundwater management, and climate change. Identifying and developing alliances and partnerships with Central Groundwater Board, Government of India, NGOs, and at international level agencies like RUDO, USAIP, the World Bank are an area of expertise for Sir. Sir has rich international work experience at the academic institutions of the Netherlands and Germany and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Economy, West Africa and Nigeria. And Sir has work exposure across the globe ranging from parts of Asia, South America, Europe, North America and West Africa. Sir's expertise lies in the area of integrated water resource management, urban lake ecosystems, climate change, clean technologies, and livelihood development. He has also participated in international workshops and UN global conferences, including the Earth Summit. Sir has attended international training programs in climate change and protection, systems approach in environment management, and global reporting initiatives across the globe. Today, Sir will be presenting on the topic Spatial Urban Planning and Land Management Considering the Future Pandemics. We now request Mr. B.V. Subbarao, sir, to address the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Krishna Priya. And small correction is I started my career with the Central Groundwater Board and then moved on. Yes, it is a little tricky, you know. I can't see the people whom I am addressing, and it's a new experience actually. And in fact, the post-lunch sessions are very difficult, whether it is in person or online. Okay, but whatever it is. Today, I am asked to speak on spatial planning and land use management with respect to COVID-19 and future planning. Most interesting thing is, see, the COVID and pandemics, epidemics, whatever it is, they are not new. They are not new even to the urban centers. It was in 1993 that Surat city, it had plague, and the entire economy of Surat town came down. Surat is known for the diamond business, diamonds and pearls, and one of the richest cities in the country. So why it happened? Okay, Krishna Priya, when can I connect my PPT?
Sir, you can connect it now, sir.
Okay. I'm not going into the academic theories and fundamentals of spatial planning. I'm just looking into the entire planning, urban planning aspects with an environmental perspective. How I look at the spatial planning and how the spatial planning has its bearing on other elements of the nature. The most important thing is, okay, what coronavirus to do with urban and spatial planning? We are all talking about this, and we are mostly looking into, interestingly, what we have observed is all the metropolitan cities, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Nagpur, whatever it is, A class city, B class city, if it is A class, it is more affected. Why? The impact of COVID is severe in metro cities. And it did not create much impact in the rural areas in the beginning months of March, April. From May, the mobility started. The workforce from the urban areas started moving into rural areas. A lot of chaos and confusion created the spread of the COVID-2. Then what is this COVID all about? And the virus part of it, and why it focused more on the metro cities. This is most important. And important thing is, how do we see the triangular relation between the pandemics, urban development, and spatial planning? And what could be the urban future planning? How we are going to look at urban future planning, and how we see the difference between the present day modern planning, the so-called planning last 20 years, and what lessons we have learned through the COVID, and what is that we should make a course correction in our urban planning. It's vital. Town planners are the key persons, vital persons in the entire urban planning and development. Unfortunately, the town planners, we don't see them in the forefront, and we only look at them, doing some work from the background. Now, if we look into the entire spatial planning, has its direct and indirect impact on all other 5 natural resources. The land development we develop, it has its own impact on land, energy, space, air, and water. What is this? How do we understand this? The space, the spatial planning, when we look at the spatial planning, it could be at a different scale. It could be to begin with a small a township to a regional planning. Then how do we look at the distribution of our planning elements and what is that we are going to gain out of it? Important factor is every action has an opposite and equal reaction in the nature. This holds true for all human activities. Nature is a dynamic system. We always forget that, we behave that nature is a static material, and we would like to do and we wish to do whatever we would like to do. But the repercussions are very harsh. We are facing it today. And the major problem
Excuse me, sir.
is there is a drastic change in the urban planning and development last 25 years. It focused more on the concentrated growth. Cities were expanding like anything. A-class cities to metropolitan cities to whatnot. Mega cities, and some cities, claim they are competing to be a global cities. And the unfortunate part is, whatever we are doing it not only has its impact on the natural resources system, but also on the quality of life. Today, we are experiencing unscientific, unregulated spatial planning, be it in Noida, Gurgaon, or Pune, or Navi Bombay, whatever is the place, Bangalore, Pune. So today, the quality of life across the cities has come down. And
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir. I'm so sorry to interrupt, sir. Sir, are you sharing the PPT, sir, or is it that we are not? Just I was wondering.
No, you can have it. No problem.
No,
I
no,
have
we're not.
already shared it. No. I
Oh,
have already
so
mailed it to you.
okay, sir. I'll just ask someone to. Okay, sir. No, we
I
were
have
just
already
wondering.
mailed in the morning.
Okay, sir. I was just wondering if you're sharing it with the part as a
Sir, do
screen.
you want us to screen it for you, or will you screen it from your end? We just want to understand that.
Okay, if you can do it, you do it. What is that?
Okay, we will just do it. So
I'm-
just give us a second. We will just start screening
Because
it.
I'm just, rescheduling the slides. That's all.
Okay, sir. We will just share it from your end. Just give us a second.
Yeah, please.
Sir, you may continue. We've already put it up on the screen.
Okay. Continue, or shall I start from the beginning?
No, sir, you can continue. We will
Okay,
hear.
thank you. So 1993, Surat struck with plague, and we have lost the track of public health systems in the metro cities. We do not have proper scientific documentation of the cases, tropical diseases like malaria, flu, cholera, dengue, etc. Things are happening, but because of the lack of proper documentation in the public primary health centers in the urban areas, we are not able to track down how these tropical diseases are moving, new vectors are forming, and how suddenly the dengue appeared and then all other diseases. So this is very important, and and where the root cause is. Okay, the important thing is today the modern development is mostly unscientific, unregulated spatial planning, and it has its cumulative impact not only on water, land, air, and etc., but also on the quality of the life. Today, the quality of the life in the urban areas is very poor. But urban areas are supposed to be the vital cogs in the economy. They are supposed to give a better employment, better education facility, and a better quality of life. Today, the urban cities have failed totally. In Hyderabad itself, there was one small, incident of water contamination in 4 years back, and within 12 hours, 26 people died. The sewage water entered into the drinking water pipeline. So we are living in a very fragile ecosystems today. The urban areas ecosystem has become fragile, and they also became the time bombs. Today, in parts of Hyderabad, the density is say 1 lakh people for 1 square kilometer, and the national standard is 20 square meters is per head. That's supposed to be the open space. The international standards which Japan, Germany, and etc., they follow 40 square meters per head, and Hyderabad, it is not even 0.5 square meters per head. We are living in a very high density, and everything, there is no space for water to move, air to move. We are living in such a close proximity that any time they can transform themselves into a time bombs, and a new pandemics can spread. This is what happening with COVID-19. Let us see. Okay, COVID-19. There is a lot of confusion in COVID-19. Yesterday night, the WHO, it's viral in the social media. It says it doesn't affect with the personal contact, so you need not worry. And some time back, last month they said it stays 8 hours in the air. So which part of this 24 hours it stays 8 hours? There is total lack of scientific, studies and communications in this part. It has shown one thing: the high density growth, the violations in the urban planning led to close proximity of living in these highly densely populated urban cities, and the public health system totally collapsing. Research studies on public health spatial planning totally ignored. We never bothered to look into the academically we may be talking, there could be with 1001 papers that spatial planning has something to do with the public health and all, but where is in the practice? I don't see today in the country what is that. So let us look at, we are all facing this pandemic. We are fighting with an invisible ghost, but one thing, we are all given certain precautionary measures that what to do. Very interesting if you look at into these things. One is the sanitization and hygiene, personal hygiene and physical hygiene of the surroundings. You just look into our own cities, our own neighborhood. What is the state of physical hygiene? It's shame on the part of us. Culturally, we are living in filth. We are living in garbage. And today we are talking of personal hygiene. Personal hygiene does not ensure everything. And second thing, in this particular slide, the 7th slide, the social distance, keep your distance. Okay, physical distance. There are a lot of. So what is this distance all about it? Okay, that ensures the physical distance, 3 feet or 4 feet, whatever it is people are talking about it. It's only as a precaution that, the virus will not spread from one person to the other when he sneezes or coughs or comes into a contact. So that is the minimum required distance between two persons. I humbly request the participants to keep this in mind when we move toward the spatial planning. We do not have a proper spatial planning in place in our country, and we do not have the hygiene systems in place. Particularly, what is that we have learned from the COVID is the physical distance, and what this physical distance to do with the spatial planning. Let us look into it. Root causes. What is the root cause of such a rapid spread of the pandemic in the urban areas? Lack of environmental perspective in the planning. Environmental planning was always viewed, conceived, planned, and developed in isolation. Isolation from the urban ecology. They think plant some trees at one corner of the city will do everything. It's not that. Ignored, neglected, and violated space planning. Spatial planning or the space planning particularly. Why do you give open space in the entire planning system? You need to facilitate the movement of the water on the ground, the movement of the air, hot air, vertical escape, and horizontal movement, and we need to look into it. We need to create the open spaces. We need to ensure the open spaces. We need to protect the open spaces. Today in our country, we don't care about the open spaces. We do not have to develop personal sanitation systems in the urban areas. Environmental issues viewed in isolation, ignoring local, social, cultural, economic, and environmental needs. Planning and development was always an exclusive model, and you keep environment at side. A city which is which has the sea as its neighbor, the rainwater doesn't go into the sea. All the mangroves were demolished. So the primary problem is the lack of spatial planning. That as an architecture, as a regional planner, you look at in your fundamental academic principles. But as an environmentalist, I look at what is the open space available to facilitate the movement, to facilitate the future generations' growth. We do not have anything. You cannot create a parallel road. The primary problem is a lack of understanding on the spatial planning. The secondary and aggravated situations are physical hygiene, lack of physical hygiene. These two are the contributing factors when you look into the present day problems, present day the infectious spread problem. And adding to this, you have the climate change. All these years we were thinking, slowly we move from the nature, design for environment. It is good in the academics. It is good, people come out with PhDs and other things. But where is it implemented as a practice? We don't have that. Today, climate change is changing the local weather conditions. Temperatures are changing. Your wastewaters are also creating temperatures and releasing the carbon emissions. All that sulfur. So these things, they also aggravate in generation of the new vectors. We are not doing any kind of studies in the entomology or the vector related studies, both in the medical field and the entomology field, with respect to urban planning and development. And COVID-19 has given us a good opportunity. And here, two of the groups with whom I am associated, one in Bangalore and the other one is in Pune, we did studies. We could go, the volunteers from this Bangalore Environment Trust and Jeevit Nadi in Pune, they went around, took the samples of the sewage, samples of the river systems, and asked the government to look into, what are the changes that's happening in the vectors in these wastewaters, and how do we look into the planning. Similarly, the heat islands, how they are developing and how it's going to change the vectors and in the urban areas. This is a classic example that still we are living in a Stone Age period. The picture on the top where you see the cross, these are all the large intestines from the slaughterhouses, butchered and dumped in outskirts of Hyderabad. This is how, the entire groundwater in this area has high, microbial contamination. We are not looking into how the microbial contamination is going on and what are the natural assimilation capacity in our designing, whether it is lakes design or, river conservation designs. We are not looking into these aspects of it. This is a classic example where Hyderabad successfully butchered a secret lake called Durgam Cheru, and today you have a hanging bridge over this, and you see, you do not have any buffer zone or an elbow space between the constructions and the lakes, and anything can be sanctioned at any given place. Then why all these academic stuff? And you look at this. This is the classic picture of the Mumbai floods, where water is not able to go out. Okay, and this particular one, any city with 8 millimeters rainfall creates an havoc. And we are not looking at how this virus or the bacteria will move. We are only discussing all the 4 days that it will transmit from one person to the other, and senior citizens are vulnerable, so children are vulnerable, immunity levels are vulnerable, all that kind of things, to divert the situations. You see, the virus and the bacteria stays in the nature once it comes. It strains changes, and how do we correct our planning course corrections, and how do we make things to move, or so that the natural purification systems can be initiated. Now we look into back. We were talking about the social distancing, physical, personal hygiene, and then whatnot and all that. Now let us look. We have seen the problems. Out of the 5 elements of the nature in the planning, we could not understand the spatial planning, because I understand, you see, space like land, water, air, and energy, space, bhumi, niru, akasha, okay, energy, agni. So what we are looking at, the moment we talk space in Indian context, we refer akasha. So we are losing everything. We are not looking into the open spaces, the elbow spaces, which we learn as an young NCC candidates. And the spatial planning and the open buffer zone planning is totally lacking in our country. So no, every house is attached. So municipal bylaws are violated. So these are all the things. See, now you look at what is this buffer zone? Buffer zones. Buffer zones are the zones which are neutral open spaces located in between two diversified land use systems. It could be industry versus residential, or residential to residential, or commercial to residential, or to a wildlife area or a zoo park to residential areas. The buffer zone has its own role, significance, and importance in urban planning. Today, the buffer zones are violated left and right, and you just look at this. Very funny, enforce buffer zone rules strictly in the outer ring road of Hyderabad. Why not in the inner city? And how long the government wants to enforce this buffer zone rule in the outer ring road systems, that to 50 meters. And we have not educated people, sensitized people on the importance of these buffer zone systems. Today, all the buffer zones around the lakes are violated, and government regularizes this on land regularization penalty, building regularization penalty, and who is going to pay for the flood the destruction or the losses? We are not looking into it. We are not sensitizing the people on the buffer zones. We are not sensitizing the policy makers on the importance of buffer zones. And buffer zones, they merely would like to distribute or for poor housing and all kinds of things, and it's happening in Andhra Pradesh, where 150 acres of mangrove forest, which is a shield against these cyclone winds, is cleared for a poor housing system. And do you think that the poor people can safely live there? Buffer zone, which is ignored, neglected, violated, vital element of spatial planning. Open spaces, including open green spaces. Buffer zone is the neutral open space between two diversified land use or land developed zones. We need to have this buffer zone, and today I am calling this buffer zone as an this is nothing but environmental distancing. Today we are talking of social distancing, physical distancing. Let us talk of environmental distancing. Tomorrow is the environment impact assessments, whether the government will keep that or it may bury it. Already the Kerala is facing with all kinds of floods, landslides, and today we have to think and promote with a conviction that the buffer zones are vital zones and they are nothing but environmentally distancing zones in a spatial planning. So we need to look these aspects of it. You see, the spatial planning is nothing but the buffer zone, and we need to protect this. Unless and until we protect this, we cannot protect the lives of the modern cities. And we only talk, all our urban planning is borrowed from the European or the European studies only. And time and again, we just refer the what is called the Indus Valley civilization, and to what extent we have, modified it or brought it to the contemporary application. Indus Valley civilization. None of the modern cities, Madhapur, Jubilee Hills, does not have a rainwater carrying conduits, and sewage carrying conduits. We have all the country after 1977. We have combined sewer carriers. We do not have dedicated sewage and why? What happened to our spatial planning while we are designing a new city or a Navi Bombay? Why can't we earmark a dedicated conduit space for sewage and rainwater ducts? It is the same throughout the country. This is the understanding of our policy makers, supported by the mindless bureaucrats. Between industrial estate, commercial, around the lakes, residential areas and all, Hyderabad, yes, there are a lot of severe. You look at the growth, you don't find any buffer zone. You do not find any elbow zone. Then how do you expect? Buffer zones are conservation zones. Geo 111 for Hyderabad people, for the architects, Hyderabad, Gandipet and Himayat Sagar and Usman Sagar, they are the two. They have completed 100 years of their service to this city, and we have failed totally to protect and conserve the buffer zone of the Himayat Sagar and Hussain Sagar. The Usman Sagar. And today in the newspaper, it tells no flows are coming into it. Why? Because the people around, the people who illegally constructed in the catchment areas of Usman Sagar and Himayat Sagar are, creating all kinds of hurdles for the free flows of water into it. The conservation zones, the buffer zones, it's time that I request probably you may be looking into these things, apart from the academic, exercises and, studies you carry out. I request the, faculty members to look into the traditional, the acts or the regulations, established by then rulers. It could be Nizam of Hyderabad or Tipu Sultan in Karnataka. Please look into this, the conservation zones, how they have marked. Otherwise, the Bangalore, the city of gardens and lakes, vanishing. And Hyderabad, it is the same situation. And Jaipur is also going in the same manner. So it's not that, we started feeling the pinch of urban flooding, and then the air pollution, and then the water pollution simultaneously. And today, and time and again, we were also facing the problems of the pandemics. Okay, it could be flu, or it could be dengue or malaria, all kinds of tropical diseases. But nowhere we gave a serious thought to this. But it's time. The density is increasing, and the cities, we are mindlessly, pumping people into this, development into this, everything we want to in this. Okay. So conservation zones, buffer zones, they are the elbow zones. Hyderabad, now let us look into it. We have seen pandemic, Hyderabad 1908, the floods, and then Hyderabad also faced the plague. And then Hyderabad, of course, malaria and all is dengue. Yes, it created ripples. And today, Hyderabad is no exception. So we are all facing the COVID or Corona. Let us look into Hyderabad planning and development. Most of the youngsters, they may not be knowing, they cannot even imagine. These are the landscape gardens along the Musi. We had 17 landscape gardens along the Musi on the floodplain areas. Today, these are all transport companies. Who violated this? Who encouraged this? Nobody knows. There is no answer for this. And today we are the victims. And tomorrow our coming younger generations are the victims of this. 17 landscape gardens and species were brought from Jammu and Kashmir in those days. And this is an historical picture where if you can see the Musi water flowing just nearing to the 4 feet below the road level. Today you don't see this. Okay. Now my next slide is basically on how the city was so systematic. You can't even imagine this. This is 1922 Hyderabad, and this picture is taken from Secunderabad. This is the Bible House. People are aware of Secunderabad. This is the James Street railway track, Raniganj railway station, James Street railway station. Bible House is this. And then this is the Hussain Sagar, the waters. And the entire downstream of the Hussain Sagars was a wetland. Of course, it was converted to Indira Park and some other stuff. But you look at the entire planning was so systematic, perpendicular to each, the roads. Then what happened to the violation of all these things? Why? It is the corruption in the town planning department of municipal corporation, pressurized by the political and bureaucrats. I am very sorry to say. It's not that. Today we are facing the pandemic is only because of this corruption in the entire country, entire world. There could be several other reasons in the Europe and North America. They have their own lifestyles and all. The impact, environment degradation changes local climatic conditions, increases atmospheric temperature, generation of new vector-borne diseases, induces urban heat pockets, high intensity rains and short duration, increased frequency of the floods. The most important thing is the third for today's discussion is the new vector-borne diseases. So we need to look into our studies, our planning studies with respect to the vector. And I know that many of the students enthusiastically, I think more than 50 thesis works were done by the Masabtank Architecture College on lakes of Hyderabad. But they are only looking into beautification of the lake. Please move beyond that. You are also taught the ecology. So look into the ecological, urban ecology, how the lakes you are going to integrate it. It's not mere beautification around the lakes is something like decorating a dead man body around the coffin. So what could be the solutions like? We have seen that today the problems are aggravating or seeding because of the high density living and total violation of buffer zones, the open spaces, and how do we restore back the open spaces, and how do we take with a conviction as planners and architects, regional planners and architects, to bring out these the relevance and importance of buffer zones, the environmental distancing, what we are talking about, and how do we bring make sure that the cities will move towards livable cities, incorporate and integrate environmental perspective, focus on spatial planning, implement zoning strictly, promote built-in environment, promote people's active participation. Even among the students, thesis work, I have not come across, their initiatives in communities' participation, particularly those students who are working on city transport systems or city open spaces or city lakes. Please also look into the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment. Promote public transport system, protect, conserve urban lake, improve green lung spaces. We do have problems in our urban planning, because most of the urban planning, we are not doing it intentionally. It is not a committed plan. What we are doing is we are allowing the panchayats to become concrete jungles, and then for the sake of revenue collection, we are taking them into the fold of Greater Hyderabad or Greater Chennai or Greater Pune. That is very wrong. You cannot rectify, because the land development regulations differ from a panchayat to peri-urban to urban areas. So we need to look into these aspects of it. But today, what's happening is we have become so hungry, revenue mongers. So we want to take anything which can give us the money. So we allow the blunders to happen and then want to rectify that. It's not possible. It's not possible. We are going into, we are in a deteriorated condition. Urban management and development is done in isolation, which I already spoke. Yeah. Let us make our city healthy, productive, and sustainable. And yeah. Are we ready for this? It is now or never. We need to think very seriously. If needed, change our course, academic courses. Make more, practical. Allow students to expose to the practical situations. Come out with thesis work or studies on the practical situations. So I thank the management of Sri Venkateswara Architectural College and so Krishna Priya, who introduced me, and to the participants. And I'm a trainer, and all my career I was associated with training institutions, human resources training institutions. So I feel more, rather happy in the interactive sessions than on delivering a talk and then say goodbye. So thank you so much, and I look forward for your queries or questions or whatever it is. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have a few questions from the participants. On behalf of the participants, we'll ask you the questions, sir. Can we go ahead?
Please.
Okay, sir. The first question that we have is the advice on parameters for measurements of a disease to be declared as a pandemic. Please advise us, how far will the ecosystem take a step back after situations normalize?
Yeah, this is a very tricky question actually. Even WHO, I don't think that even WHO will come out with the parameters after the post-COVID. And I have my own doubts that what makes them to declare that there is no more COVID.
Yes, sir.
This is totally a confusing factor, because COVID, what they are explaining is it has to do something with the your respiratory system, and it attacks your respiratory system, and your lung capacity is taken away. Okay, and then it will have its other impacts on other parts of the body, like when your lung capacity doesn't function, it will have direct impact on the heart system. And then now they are saying it's on the what is that, your sugar levels and other things. But it is very, this must be addressed by a microbiologist, not by me actually. I'm only looking, and I'm only trying to create common platforms for the microbiologists and the water people who are working with me to how do we actually establish and assess the corona at different levels and different medium. They said it is not in the air, then they said it is in the air. Okay, if it is in the air, how it's go? What is its travel time? So a lot of research has to go in the public health systems. And this is the question actually. I advise the faculty and the students to interact with social preventive medicine institutions. And you have the departments of social preventive medicine. And we also have Indian Institute of Public Health. So these are the institutions which can give specific parameters if they have established. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. That's very good, sir. Thank you. So there's another question. How do we define the role of 5 elements in the urban planning?
Yeah. See, urban planning, any planning for that matter, it only differs the dynamics. Any planning, if you look at, our entire planning, the physical, construction or the initiation, it's on the land. So we design on the land, but it will have its impact on the other 5 elements like water, like air, and water, air, and energy. Now let us look into how it's going to impact. Okay, the impact, whatever the development we have on the land, you need water to support that. That is number 1, input. The second one is the rainfall that comes onto the land. It must have a free flow for exit. Today, we do not have inflows and outflows. The entire rainwater that comes, the cities are getting inundated. So in our urban planning, what is happening is, I have seen, I also organized some training workshops to the urban development authorities and all. And my colleague, Dr. Kapil Gupta from IIT Bombay, we were just looking. Interestingly, the hydrological maps are not taken while preparing an urban planning. That is the disadvantage. So you are doing a planning, a physical planning, without knowing that how what is the size of the stream or what is the lake that exists there. You do not have that. That is the first impact on the water. The second impact is air. We have classic examples. If you people know the location of ICRISAT. Do you know, Krishna Priya, the location of the ICRISAT? International Crop Research Institute towards west of Hyderabad.
Yes, sir, at nearby Patancheru.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in the west of Hyderabad. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an agricultural research institution, international institution, globally supported. And on the other side of the ICRISAT, they have given permission to Volro, which manufactures pesticides. Volro, every weekend, it flushes its chimneys and lot of pesticide comes into the air, and it undermines the entomology research of ICRISAT. So you should know which is the air shed, which ways the wind flows. If I give the permission to a factory, is it going to detrimental to the other existing structure there, or a developmental activity there? ICRISAT closed all its entomology from Hyderabad and shifted to Africa, and Indian agricultural system is the loser of entomology studies. That is a classic example of not looking into the wind directions in the urban planning. And another classic example, still it's going on, and I think people know Miapur Circle, and there you have the Hill County Mitas, on a hillock they constructed everything. Posh bungalows, 1.5 crores, 2 crores, and all. You have minimum 2 people suffering from respiratory diseases in that posh, rich locality. You know the reason? The wind that comes from the pharmaceutical industries will hit this Hill County community. So while giving sanction to the Hill County, they have not taken the wind directions. So we need to look into, classic example, water, we have seen it. And water, yes, our Hussain Sagar was the first victim of Sanat Nagar industrial estates. And ICRISAT is the victim of air pollution. Energy. With so much of high density growth, heat generated and heat islands, today the energy consumption in the city is so much. Apart from the weather conditions, the heat radiations, we are also adding to it the radiations from the air conditioners. That's it. And the space, yes, where is the open space? It is 0.5 square meters per head in our city. It is shame on the part of it. Whenever it rains, the Kukutpalli gets inundated. So urban planning, it is most important, because urban planning, the things are dynamic. In a rural planning, things happen, the changes happen once in a decade. But whereas in the urban planning, urban development, the things are happening day to day. Though urban planning demands a dynamic management system to monitor, regulate, and to look into the risk factors and manage everything. Okay. Even today's my topic, I was asked to tell about the land use management. Where is it? The moment we use the word management, you must have a system in place. We do not have a system in place, then there is no management. So we do not have parameters because there is no management system to monitor it, track it. That is the problem. So any action, any planning and development on the land has chain reaction on other elements of the nature, because our life, our quality of life is linked to water, air, energy, and space. I need space to move around. Hope I could make some clarity on this.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. Sir, another question. Please brief us about the importance of traditional wisdom for space planning, which could help architects and planners.
Yeah. Unfortunately, India has a lot of traditional knowledge. I say that unfortunately, because we are not, bringing that into the contemporary management system. That is the problem. I say the management systems which traditional management systems which San Francisco water system uses and Mexico national policy is there, we are not using here. Though we have water management systems, traditional management systems in our country, and these contemporary San Francisco water management systems were borrowed from Indian, southern India's water management systems. The problem is we are not able to integrate them, bringing it to the contemporary situations. Example, I wish if I will be able to guide any student, if people are saying there is no need for Gandipet, there is no need for Himasagar, there is no need for Hussain Sagar. Okay, then if that be the case, what is the role of what is the environment services of these catchments and open areas? Are you looking into the environment services in your curriculum, Ms. Krishna Priya?
Environmental
services. So
part
in
of
the
it,
plan,
sir.
in
A part
the
of it,
plan,
yes.
pardon?
Sorry, sir. I was just saying a part of it. Yes. Yes, sir.
You are going through that.
Yes, sir. We have a part of it as a part of the curriculum, environmental
Yeah,
services.
I know, which I try to.
Environmental sciences, to be more precise.
Yeah, environment sciences, but they are looking environment sciences more as a cosmetic treatment and beautifications than as a service. For example, most of the students who came to me, they were involved in the lake restoration works and all. They are only looking into the lake beautification, enjoyment, revenue generation and all that. You see, lake has tangible and intangible benefits. When I do a planning, a restoration planning, as a planner and an architect, I should also look at what is when I do the restoration, what is the environment economics of the benefits. A lake, when it gets restored, it automatically recharges the groundwater. If it is restored, it will recharge with good water. If it doesn't restore, it will recharge bad water. So we need to look into the environment services in the urban ecology systems. And why? You see, it's not merely some fascination or emotional attachment to ecological systems and the nature. Okay, everybody says, oh, go for plantation, as if every plant can take the air pollution of Judimetla and Patancheru. Can it be? What kind of a plant? Which plant has the ability to take the contaminated air and purify it? That is the environment services of that plant species. So when I incorporate in my planning, I project it out. I project it out the value of my planning. So these are things we have to go a long way in particularly in these particular things. And particularly Netherlands, my experience with Netherlands academic institutions and German, they look into these aspects. We need to move beyond the conventional education systems also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. So this session is for professionals, sir. We're all professionals from architectural field and planners. Just wanted to let you know, this webinar is not for students, sir. So it's all.
I know that. I know.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing, sir. We'll have another question for you. Accessibility is one of the key parameters to build a resilient society, but in the case of pandemic, widespread networks connecting different parts of the city is making cities more vulnerable. What do you think, sir? What are your opinions on this, or any comments on this? I mean, we would like to know.
I request you to repeat the question.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. I'm sorry. I'll repeat it again. Accessibility is one of the key parameters to build a resilient society. But in the case of a pandemic, widespread networks connecting different parts of the city is making city more vulnerable also. I mean, it is part of it. At the same time, that is what is also a reason is what they feel. What do you feel about it, sir? What are your comments on this, or what are your opinions about this? Accessibility when we are connecting different regions at the regional level. Because we have, as a society, we are dependent on each other, isn't it? We need accessibility to different parts of our region. So it is very important that accessibility is part of it. But at the same time, when we're looking at this pandemic, this very thing is also giving a way or in way for things to spread.
Yeah, you see, one important thing, and one thing we can learn from Hyderabad
Yes.
is a study of the old city. You see, a lot of things have decentralized in the recent past. That is one plus point in the Hyderabad city. Hyderabad old city was, so self-contained, self-reliant. Even if you cut off that old city for years together, they can survive. That was a decentralized planning. You have the entire production systems, including the food production systems in the old city, which is part of the fort. So, very interestingly, you see, when you ask this particular question of connectivity and disconnections and all, yes, we are all connected, but we are not vulnerably dependent. Hope you got my point. We are connected. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The
Yes.
city is well connected.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
But city is not that vulnerable that I have to go onto one habits to buy certain thing. Okay. So the decentralized development last 25 years, the townships around the Kukatpalli township and other, that made things much easier and self-contained. So we should look into townships within the city is much more important.
Okay.
Mobility at a social level, that's a different thing. But whereas dependency for one particular thing is difficult, and again we have not created a decentralized health systems across the city. During the pandemic, anybody who is living in Gachibowli has to come down to Gandhi Hospital and all. That created a lot of havoc. So only after some time, maybe in the end of the April, they started creating, taking sports complex and creating a COVID quarantine facility and all. That is all. That's not an health systems. Government totally failed in creating a decentralized accessibility to public health systems in the city. That part is missing in our city. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question, sir. What advice would you give to us as individuals on how to bring a change in society in conjunction or keeping spatial planning in mind?
Yes, that is real challenge. Actually, my association with architects is right from my young days, 1971, when the Masabtank Architecture College was established. So I was interacting with all these, most of the senior architects. The spatial planning, you see, somehow we lost it actually. If you look at the city planning, our own city planning till 1970s, okay? 1970s, we had a very good, development plan like, housing board, open spaces, sports stadiums, and municipal corporation creating the facilities of these open spaces. All that was in place. The day, last 25 years and 10 years, everything has become a commercial thing. Land has become a commercial thing. It is all privatized. Okay, we understand the role of private sectors in the development, but the regulating mechanism should be under the control of the government. Today, you do not have the open space facilities in the west of Hyderabad. Where is the open space facility there? Except for thanks to Indo-African international sports, we got Gachibowli Stadium. Gachibowli Stadium is not going to create facility for the people who live in the Hafizpet and other slum areas. So open space, it's a must. And open space conservation, largely, you need to promote this through senior citizens of the city. I enjoy going to Indira Park, talking to senior citizens there, where people come and talk to you and share all that. The moment I also lived some time in Road number 3 Banjara Hills, but when I see the KBR Park and the community going around, it's a different dynamics. There is no social relationships. So we need to educate the importance of open space, open green space, whether it is a blue space or a green space or a gray space. Open space is a must in the city. And we need to sensitize it right from the childhood. And we should create a more community festivities in these open spaces. That's most important. What we call it, our commons, basically our commons. Our urban commons, we are losing that. Then how do we create? Today, it is the number that is living in the city, but not the communities. Architectures as planners, you also look into the community spirit. So please look into it. I know that, I'm talking to senior faculty members who have equally and more experience in this particular field. But what I see is at the students level, the attitudes are changing at the student levels in and going through the academics and doing the thesis works and all. We need to create, we need to inculcate that kind of a spirit where students start looking into the practical implementation of these things, but not as a glorified, professions. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Sir, just last two questions, sir. Sir, how we as architects can in fact help the policymakers in bringing change in the society? Can you please advise us on that? How do we support the policy makers?
Yeah, I see. I think 2000 and 2003, I was conducting urban environment management workshops across the combined state and started looking into it. You see, interestingly, as the city grows, like we had a lot of stories of city of Istanbul, New York City, and where people, they lose their mindset. They become more isolated and more individualistic, and people going to a lot of stress. So can we make our cities livable and stress-free cities? That is most important. See, city is not, somebody to make money, invest in the real estate, and somebody to cash money on people's hard work. But cities in a modern era are the stepping stones or the milestones to provide better economy, better education, and quality of life. You look at, most of though the cities are not that big, like, Hyderabad, when you look into, European cities and all, but you feel more comfortable. I see, most of the cities, even the walkers' place and all, you find a chess, board painted. You go with your coins and play. How do you create your city a stress-free city. And our cities are not designed for senior citizens. Our cities are not designed for the young children. There's one city in Europe, Audubon City. I had the opportunity of visiting that city. The unique sales proposal, USP of the city is, can my child play on the street? Design my city. It's a challenge to the planners and the city developers. It's a wonderful, they designed it. The unique sales proposition is, can my child freely play on the street? Can we do that in Hyderabad? These are the issues, and really, I feel, we need to move from the conventional system. And yes, the architects and planners, they should also start looking into the public health systems and how the designing elements in the planning can help in developing mechanisms to promote the inner health. That is most important. We only look into the outer health, like, today you look at lake restoration, a cycling track, bicycle track, running track. What happened to my inner health? I want to sit calm and enjoy the nature. You do not want to, me to sit calmly and enjoy the nature. So you are very potential in that. Sometimes what I feel is, architectural planning, when people were talking of Chandigarh, Charles Correa and all those, we were always, talking of the Western architects and Western things. I would like to see an Indian, I have a lot of architect friends, and I share these thoughts with them. It's very important, how do I indigenize my town planning or city planning, and how I make my city, which helps in developing the mechanisms to promote inner health and inner and outer ecologies. That's a real challenge. I'm with you, if you feel that, we can work together, yes, we should. And a policy document, architects as water policy, architect for the air policy, architects for a livable city policy. You people are not participating. All the national levels, it is only the engineers, IAS officers who doesn't do anything. They are the people who are participating. I wish and I encourage that, you are all senior, faculty member. You should start looking into these cross-sectoral and interdisciplinary approaches in making our cities more healthy, more productive, and more livable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure listening to you. My name is Neha. It was a pleasure. My colleague, Krishna Priya, will continue with the thank you note, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your unrelenting response for the questions by giving excellent examples. We would like to thank Mr. Subbarao, sir, for his kind words of this session was very informative for giving us knowledge to understand spatial and land management, which contributes to sustainable land management with the help of various case studies. And also thank you, sir, for excellent space planning insights and also importance of buffer zones and traditional practices. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Subbarao garu.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Raj Reddy.
Thank you for accepting our invitation, and you have delivered a wonderful lecture today. And apart from your busy schedule, and we are greatly honored by your presentation and a great, wonderful insightness and wisdom, sir. And we appreciate your time, and definitely we will involve you in the future. So we thought you are only an environmentalist and climate expert. Now we can see you are a great planner. So
It's all association,
and
when we learn from many things. Hyderabad was the best city in the world. What I felt is, we had student circles from all disciplines in those days. So
Yeah.
that was the great advantage for Hyderabadians in those days.
Yeah.
And I wish that spirit should continue, so that the younger generations will also take that spirit and move forward with an comprehensive.
Yeah. With your, with your guidance, we will definitely do that. We will definitely do that, and we are trying to actually connect the different streams. Now, if you see the speakers of this 1 week webinar, they are from different fields. So I want the architects to be trained and get wisdom in 360 degrees. So that because they are the inceptors, they are the planners. The change must start from them, because once it is constructed, it is constructed.
One only small request, Raj Reddy garu. I feel very sad. I had good number of, and I also addressed the national town planners 2 years back actually. Because unfortunately today the town planner is victimized and also badnaam kuda ayinadu. Present day can a town planner must come forward, it's time to make a change. And how do we bring indigenous knowledge into it? Okay, that's most important than the Western things. And I'm always with you, Raj Reddy garu, and to the college. Anything in interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approaches, I'm always available. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you. Namaste.